You had a choice to make tonight, whether to stay home and watch a national debate or come here and listen to a candidate for the governorship of Montana, which is probably more important than the president in a number of ways, because the governor will control the Fish, Wildlife, and Parks Commission appointments, the appointments to the leadership of Fish, Wildlife, and Parks, as well as to set forth missions, goals, objectives within the department.
We were talking right before this event started, and he's real interested in hearing the solutions to some of the problems that we're having from you guys. So he can take that back to Helena. It's really critical that we get Rick elected.
There are two things that are on the minds of almost every Montanan. One is jobs in the economy. I mean, people want more, better paid jobs. And we have an agenda for that. We're not here to talk about that tonight. If you have some questions, I'd be happy to answer them. The second is that everywhere I went, people were concerned about what's happening at Fish, Wildlife, and Parks. The relationships are really frazzled out there between landowners and the agency, between sportsmen and the agency, and as a consequence of that, between sportsmen and landowners as well. And I don't think it has to be that way. In fact, I know it doesn't have to be that way because I'm talking with the people that are expressing that kind of concern.
So you know me as president of the Montana Shooting Sports Association, and I wrote the bill that put the right to hunt and fish onto the ballot so the people of Montana could amend it into the Montana Constitution. It passed by the largest percentage of any ballot issue in Montana history, as far as I know. But in legal documents the Department of Fish, Wildlife, and Parks has entered in court, they have argued that that does not protect the right to hunt and fish in Montana. There is no right to hunt and fish, that constitutional amendment is only honors our heritage of hunting and fishing. I think that's an example of some of the disconnect with the people in the Montana Department of Fish, Wildlife, and Parks. Some of them are very good people, some of them are just lost.
I get 3 out of the 5 appointments right away, and then I think it's another 2 years before I get the other 2.
And the director?
The director, yeah, serves at the will and pleasure of the governor. In the interim period between the election and when we take office in January, the person that I select to be that director will obviously announce at that point, and I don't know who that person will be right now. But we will go into the session with some ideas with regard to organizational changes and other things in the agency.
But you plan on changing the
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Earlier, the current director is a neighbor of mine. I confronted my wife the other day and asked why it is I dislike him, and she said, Rick doesn't dislike you at all. And he said, well, then why is he saying all these terrible things about me? And my wife said, he isn't saying terrible things about you. And then he said to her, well, he said he wouldn't reappoint me. And she said, I'm sure that he said that.
I've taken the wolf trapping course and become a certified wolf trapper, as many in this room have, I'm sure. And currently, we're only allowed foothold traps, no snaring. And Idaho is allowing snaring, other states are looking at it. A friend of mine is a federal trapper, and he says, well, I know exactly why they don't want to allow snaring, is because you'll catch too many wolves.
Season starts December 15th when we have our freeze thaws until it's over, you know. And I would suggest that if we do get to snare and stuff, that we could do it with a longer season like you suggested, but also maybe we could have some professional trappers that are doing this for a living like the ones working for the Fish and Game, like the ones that work in Alaska, doing in the summer, surgically removing these animals.
I'm originally from Idaho, been in Montana for just about 4 years now. We have a trapper down in St. Mary's, Idaho, who was trapping wolves. We thought he was trapping them and killing them. He was trapping them and moving them different places. So, but my point is, he was getting 3 a day.
Natural resource policy and coordination, they believe that they are mandated to only consider what's best for the environment, and that they are not to take in anything to do with the local government or now they're different with the tribes, but with local government, they don't see them as a sovereign entity. Therefore, they have no legal obligation to care about our economy or our health, our safety, and they think the smoke is just something we all got to move out or live with.
I believe passionately that the federal government has been a lousy manager of that resource. They've been a lousy neighbor to the people of the state of Montana for 20 years or longer. and we're gonna do everything we can to force their hand.
We finally have a governor who's going to put his hand on the Bible and defend and protect the Constitution of the state of Montana. If the state of Montana is going to pay his salary, then he's riding for our brand. And it just really choked me up to hear this, that he wants to fight. Because what has happened for the last 15 years of Toby's and my fight, and Gary has been at the point of this spear, is nobody wants to fight back with the federal government. Fortunately, we have an attorney who understands what the word dual sovereignty means.
One of the problems, the suggestions I have for you, is that non-governmental organizations have insinuated themselves in a very powerful way into our game management, everyday activities, studies, planning. From Montana Fish, Wildlife, and Parks' own website, they listed as partners the Nature Conservancy, the Center for Large Landscape Conservation, and the National Wildlife Federation. And these organizations have taken advantage of the Endangered Species Act to stop all sorts of productive activities. And of course, they've used it in game management to list species and then sue and then this and then that. So one of the things that I would suggest is that you immediately remove these non-governmental organizations from the planning table. They can make comments if they want. They can do this and that. But they can't sit down and go around and fly and capture pregnant elk in March and other silly things.
Good suggestion.
Thanks.
As governor, we need to go a step further, several steps further, as far as what can you do then to help us regarding involvement with the federal government to get this Endangered Species Act rewritten and the Equal Justice Act changed? So stop these frivolous lawsuits.
I can't overemphasize how much that the Endangered Species Act is threatening this state and all of the West. We need a different senator than we have right now, I think. We need two different senators than we have right now. I served on the Resources Committee when I was in Congress. A lot of you don't remember that, but I do. And I don't know how many hundreds of hours that we spent trying to figure out some way to politically deal with the Endangered Species Act. This is, I mean, the Endangered Species Act could be the economic destruction of this country. I mean, there's almost nothing anymore that you can do. I mean, somebody can find something, a species somewhere, and subspecies. I mean, this is really out of control. And when Congress passed it, you know, they were thinking about whooping cranes and bald eagles. And everybody in this room thought, yeah, we ought to do something to try to protect those. And once the courts made the decision that habitat is the same as a species, the game changed. And we've got to get this back to a common sense place.
What may be the tip of an iceberg concerning the Montana budget. The legislature in the last session appropriated $650,000 to the Department of Fish, Wildlife, and Parks for the shooting range development program to make matching grants to improve local shooting ranges so people have a safe and suitable place to shoot. Well, in this last cycle of grant applications, they announced, well, gosh, we're only going to spend about a third of that money because on ranges because we decided we want to do something else with that money. Well, I'm pretty certain that something else is the governor's pay raises. I'm pretty certain what the governor said, you can all have, all state employees can have pay raises, but we don't have anything in the budget for it, so you're going to have to find it within existing programs. And they're scraping the bottom of every barrel to try and come up with that money to put in their own pockets. That frustrates me because every time I go to Helena to testify on bills, I see public employees lining up 20 deep to tell the legislature about all the Montanans who are going to suffer so terribly if the legislature just doesn't give them some more money to help these suffering people. Now they want to take that money out of those programs and put it in their own pockets. So I hope you've noticed this problem, and I'm betting that it's an agency or a executive branch wide practice of using that money for something other than what the legislature appropriated it for.
The state, the hunters and fishermen don't always communicate that well, and we don't always participate as well, like you're doing. I have probably, 30 friends that hunt and fish religiously, and they didn't know anything about this forum tonight. And I tried to get 2 or 3 of them to come, they go, oh, I don't know anything about it. And they decide, no, I just don't want any more rhetoric, I don't want to hear any more negativism. This position paper of yours is excellent.
Thank you.
Is that in a PDF format that we can email out to people and
Yeah.
cut through the rhetoric out there? Because right now, people are so sick of negative ads
Yes.
that, you can't get to them publicly. It's got to come from peer to peer.
It's on our website, and there's a lot of other things there that you might find interesting too, with education reform, budget reform, and a whole host of things. Paul Ryan in the debate the other night made a statement, and it crystallizes my view about this whole thing. And I would close with this. And that is, he said, leaders run to problems, not from problems. And that's how I view this whole thing. And the reason I want to be governor is because I see these problems that we have, and I realize that if we can tackle some of them, that we can transform Montana. And, we can transform the economy of this state. We can create more better paying jobs. We can broaden the tax base in Montana. We can create more opportunity. We can educate our kids better. We can create more sportsman opportunity. We can rebuild relationships so that private landowners welcome hunters on there. We can do all of those things. We can't do it like that, but we can do all of those things if we just start working together on this. And I'm not naive enough to think it's going to be easy, but we can do all of those things. And so people say I'm negative about Montana. I'm not negative. I'm hopeful. And I want this job because I think Montanans are ready for that. I think they're ready for leadership that's going to say, let's go tackle some of these problems. So that's why I want to be governor. And to be honest with you, the payday for me is I love solving problems. I like taking on tough problems and dealing with difficult issues, and wrestling with different points of view. That's the payday to me. The payday to me is if you solve a problem, you say, wow, I feel good about that. And that's what this is about. This issue, we can deal with this. We can make a difference. But we're running out of time. I really believe in wildlife. If we don't tackle this now, this is our opportunity. We have populations of wildlife that won't survive.